How often do you upgrade your phone? How often do you upgrade your smartwatch? Or if you're just getting into the market, how often do you think you would? This is my review of the new Apple Watch Series 8, but I'm not going to spend this review comparing it to the Series 7. Now, I think there's a much more relevant comparison to be had, and we're going to dive into that and my experiences and thoughts with the watch a few weeks in now. After the intro, let's get into it. Hey, if any of the videos on this channel have helped you, if this video helps you, please consider hitting us with that thumbs up, hitting that subscribe button, and clicking the notification bell so you'll be notified when we upload the latest content and when we run contests. So I'll save you some time. If you own a Series 7 and are wondering if you should upgrade to the Series 8, I don't think so. I think the Apple Watch Ultra would be the better upgrade for you if you want all those features and really want to upgrade right now. I ran an informal poll and quite a few people only upgrade every few years, so I'm going to look at this review with the Series 8 as it compares to someone coming from a Series 5 or older. Or maybe you own an iPhone and have been using a competing product like an older Fitbit and were thinking about upgrading and considering closing the loop and going all in on Apple gear. Keep watching, no pun intended. At this point in smartphone history, year-over-year improvements are often about refinements, but for those coming from a watch a few years old, there's a different story to be told. In my informal polls on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feeds, I posted this question: how often do you upgrade your smartwatch? The most popular answer across my platforms was every 3 to 4 years. So, for Apple fans, that means you're likely coming from a Series 4 or 5, and a lot has changed. Particularly coming from the Series 4, you'd see the most dramatic increase in functionality in the Series 8 coming from what you're currently using. Going from using your raise to wake functionality, you'll now have always on display, which actually started with the Series 5. And it's been a pretty solid addition over the years now. Seems a small thing, but when you're driving and you glance at that time, it's a good example of how we don't think about how frequently we may look at our watch off axis. I know I could look at my car's dash, but I have a habit of glancing at my watch since it's raised and at the steering wheel and in my line of sight with the road ahead, not making me look away. And that always on display will look even better when you get to the Series 8 because it's a larger display without added bulk. Smaller bezels and more screen real estate is the name of the game here. But that's really just aesthetics, and it's all about form and function for me. While the Series 4 added ECG for atrial fibrillation detection, which has literally saved people's lives, the Apple Watch Series 8 adds 2-sensor temperature monitoring to help you track creating life, if that's what you're after. Apple spent a fair amount of time in their keynote going over this because, well, there's a lot going on in our world right now when it comes to women's reproductive rights and health, regardless of which side of the issue you fall on. We'll get into that in a moment, but back to those sensors themselves. With COVID having taken the world by storm in the manner that it did, the reality of pandemics being a part of the lives of the masses greatly affected everything on down to technology. So manufacturers began placing temperature sensors in fitness trackers and smartwatches. Most have a single temperature sensing unit, which gives you feedback on your skin temperature, your wrist temperature, but Apple added 2 sensors to the Series 8. One sensor on the back crystal gives your body's temperature or your wrist temperature, and the other just under the display, the outside or atmospheric temperature. This is done so that any bias, say a 100-degree day, is mitigated when taking body temperature data. The watch takes samples every 5 seconds overnight when most people are sleeping. So if you're seeing an elevated increase over a few days, that could be an indicator of onset of illness or have some reproductive ramifications. And that takes us to another first for Apple Watch, what they call retrospective ovulation estimates. Now, I have no uterus, so tracking menstruation isn't a feature I've interacted with, but I have tracked my temperature over time. Hopefully I won't be experiencing COVID again, but if I do, or if the flu or common cold attempt to dance with my homeostasis, I'll definitely be geeking over the quantified self metrics as I deal with it, kind of like I did the first time I had COVID and was monitoring my everything, my heart rate and all that stuff. But If you're tracking ovulation for whatever reason, rhythm, method of birth control, figuring out the best time to conceive if you're growing a family, whatever the case, these ovulation estimates will also utilize sleep tracking data to get a picture of your overall reproductive health and cycles and send notifications to your iPhone and Apple Watch telling you when it is likely you've ovulated. But I know for some that may be a concern given America's current reproductive politics, and Apple addressed that in their keynote, stating that they believe that privacy is a fundamental human right, which is why cycle tracking data is encrypted on your device and is only accessible with your passcode, Touch ID, or Face ID. Further, when you use iOS and watchOS with the default two-factor authentication and a passcode, that health app data that is synced to iCloud is end-to-end encrypted. In English, that means that Apple doesn't have what is needed on their end to read your data as it moves across their servers. Some law enforcement agencies, not specifically the agents themselves, but this overall concept has been in the news lately because they've been overstepping their reach, connecting with third-party data providers to use certain social media platforms' data in ways that are highly questionable. So this end-to-end encryption is a must in 2022. And as we talk about quality of life improvements, we can look at another one now in Apple Watch Series 8, which builds upon the fall detection that the Apple Watch was already known for. Now they have crash detection. Apple Watch Series 5 and those after also had an accelerometer which measured up to 32 G-forces to allow for fall detection, but Series 8 uses a new high G.
I'm a gangster, but y'all knew that. The big boss dog, yeah, I had to do that.
No. A new high G accelerometer and improved gyroscope, plus the barometer, microphone, and GPS to detect severe car crashes and automatically connect you to emergency services. This is a feature I hope you never need, but a feature I'm glad you'll have. By the way, this new high G accelerometer measures up to 256 Gs, and the type of crashes it detects are more common car crashes and SUVs, sedans, two doors, head-on, rear-end, side impact, and rollover type crashes. A lot of what you're going to see in the Series 8, to be fair, is coming along with watchOS 9 to earlier watches, except of course some of these features which are tied to the new sensors in Series 8. But that's where the rest of my user experience with Apple Watch comes into play. There are new workout features, which are great for runners in that they'll give you heart rate zones and custom workouts, along with new workout views to monitor them. You'll get stride length for runs, ground contact time, and power measurement. When you go for hikes, you can now set waypoints and use Backtrack to use GPS data to create a path of where you've been so you can retrace your steps in case you get lost or disoriented. You'll find those in the redesigned Compass app. But it's also the little improvements like having deeper insights into my sleep with improved sleep tracking, which now shows your sleep stages. And as a type 2 diabetic, the medications app is priceless. It reminds me to take my supplements and stay on track when I need to add things to it. It has a rich database which often pulls up supplements or medications without me needing to input everything on the phone. Battery life, though, even though charging has actually gotten much faster and it in a zip gets you right where you need to be, it hasn't improved greatly overall from your Series 4. I still have the same routine I've used since I first bought the Series 3, my first Apple Watch. Every morning while I get ready for work, I place my watch on the charger. The Apple Watch has enough juice to get you through a full day and night, but in case you've had a particularly busy, notification-filled, GPS-using gym workout day, the watch will notify you if you need to top off before hitting the sheets. That's a feature that's been there for a bit, but worth noting in case you're new to Apple Watch. Oh, and before I get out of here for this video, thank you, Apple, for finally addressing one of my complaints with the Reminders app. In watchOS 9, you can actually set time and date for reminders without having to use Siri. So, you can create a reminder, then go back and set a time and date directly from the watch if you're in a meeting and can't use Voice Assistant, for example. Like I said, refinements. So, That's Apple Watch Series 8 for those upgrading from earlier Apple Watches. It's faster, charges faster, has a larger screen without being bulkier, improved processing and sensors. You will feel and notice the difference. If there's any questions you have about the watch, go ahead and holler at me in the comments. I'll answer them. I love chatting with you all. I'm Tshaka Armstrong. This has been my review of the Apple Watch Series 8. I will catch you on the next video.